Good evening, everybody. We are here with the penultimate match of our A division here. The A League is about to close, but before we get to the grand finals on Sunday, we have just one more match to solidify here. It's the lower finals between Amatori versus Odin. The loser reign is done for the season and gets a healthy bronze medal on the podium, but still the winner has a chance at everything.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty banger of a match between these two teams. It's a grudge match here. Not only did Odin fall into this lower bracket courtesy of Amatori, this is actually going to be the third time that these two teams have faced off, and every single time we have gone the distance to that tiebreaker map.
Yeah, these two teams have been slugging it out since the start, actually since the beginning of the season in that kickoff tournament here all the way back. I believe that was Amatori stopping Odin's hopes at even going past that first round. So Amatori making it all the way to the finals there, but didn't quite claim that crown. So, of course, they're looking to get one here this evening, or at least get on the road to doing so. Odin, however, has been top of the pile here. As you can see, folks, it's tonight's match. And again, all things being equal, if everything goes well and we get a fair weather win behind us, it is going to be that grand finals against Siren Song at 9 p.m. on Sunday. That is Eastern time. You do not want to miss that. Siren Song, I know we have to focus on this match here tonight, Rain, but has gone on such a fascinating run here. Regular season, I mean, they were not really looking that hot. I think a 3-2 scoreline overall, got in the play-ins into playoffs, but have been undefeated all the way through.
Yeah, a seriously impressive run for Siren Song. So whether it's Amatori or Odin that's moving on tonight, they are going to have their work cut out for them in that grand final. So they're going to have to put up a stellar showing here to prove that they deserve to be in that top two.
Yeah, of course, I'd forgotten about this one too. In the kickoff tournament, it was the finals of that in which Amatori lost to the current victor, the current leading team right now. So yeah, this is already so much set up here between these two teams. They each have so much to play for, both in the same bracket, the exact same division all season long. So they have had a chance to play against each other. They do know what their opposition is capable of. And of course, they have been planning for this series for, I think, at least a week and perhaps more at this point. We've had a bit of a journey to get to this actual series here, so I'm sure they're both very excited to kick this one off.
Yeah, and you can see here the head-to-head, like we mentioned, they both came from that Alchemist division of A-League, so have faced off against each other in the regular season and, of course, in those upper semifinals of the playoffs as well. And so far, it is Amatori that has sneaked out the win overall, but Odin are looking to fight back through that lower bracket, so I think that they definitely have some fire underneath them for this one.
Well, we'll see which of our players are bringing the fire this evening, folks. Getting a look at the rosters here real quick. For Amatori, we are looking at your DPS line, or roughly speaking for this team at least. Frostfire and Essel will be locking things down. Stella Luna as well as one of your rotating DPS picks. Matt Berger, usual tank line here. And of course, Zimzif, Cry, and Illuminus as your regular supports here on the roster. Pretty well rounded all told here. And of course, having the tank to lock things down, crucial here on these more flexible rosters.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to have the rotation available here, as we will get to see probably a few different iterations of this roster throughout the night, and it is going to be that first to three here, so plenty of maps for these players to get some time in.
Looking on the other side of the aisle here, Odin, a team that is well practiced and undefeated in the regular season, but of course that only means so much in the playoffs. Laser, Sorry, and Twisted are your DPS line. Of course, Cam will be your tank main here, as Agua, Crow, and Noctara round out your support line here for this, again, star-studded, but currently the team with more to prove against their opposition.
Yeah, going down from that semifinal into this lower bracket, but they've had a fantastic run through the lower bracket so far. So we'll have to see if they're going to be able to pull it together here. Of course, both teams want to move on to that grand finals, but also very impressive that they have managed to get this far. And even the losing team, like we mentioned earlier, is going to be walking away with that third place.
Yeah, of course, you'd love to make it all the way, but still, both of these teams know exactly what they've done to get to this point here. They know they've got it in them. It's just a question of who is going to show up here tonight. And for our first map of the evening, it is going to be the much vaunted, the much attended, and the regular of all teams in all divisions, in all series, and all leagues. It's Lijiang Tower to kick things off here, Rain, the classic control map, and of course a perfect proving ground between these two teams to see if their styles of play match or if they continue setting things off with a bang.
Yeah, I think this is pretty expected that we would end up here on Lijiang. I'm taking a look at the records so far, and it's pretty even for both of these teams on Lijiang Tower, with Amatori going 2-2 on Lijiang and Odin going 2-1 here. So definitely a chance here for Odin to maybe kind of prove themselves, start off with a win here. But regardless, it's going to come down to these hero bans, I think, to really kind of hone in the advantage here for the teams on Lijiang.
It's been a bit of a minute since we've had any serious balance changes. Of course, we are still looking a little bit towards the mid-season here, but the first ban of the evening is going to come down from Odin, and that's going to be on to the Pharah. All right, so, I mean, especially those at Lijiang Tower, probably one of the best Pharah maps in the game. I'm thinking especially, of course, of Gardens, but honestly, we've seen teams even pull it out on Night Market and in some situations on Control Center. If you can set up on that high side or outside the objective towards that, you know, environmental ledge on the outside of the point, there's tons of room to get work done, but of course not an option here for Amatori or indeed Odin, but of course they're the ones to put that Pharah in her place.
Yeah, a lot of pressure can be created by that Pharah from the control of the angles here. So this is, of course, going to also protect ban the DPS role here. So Amatori is going to have to answer with a tank or a support ban, and it is going to be the Lucio off the table here. So I feel like we have been seeing the Lucio get banned pretty frequently on map number 1. And this is going to probably push that support line more towards the Kiriko, maybe even some Jetpack Cat.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that means Amatori cannot ban out that Lucio later on down the line here, but I think you're right here, Rain. I think Jetpack Cat, still as ubiquitous as she is, as kind of all-purpose as she is of a hero, you really can't go wrong incorporating her, especially on Lijiang Tower, where not only can you weave in and out of all the windows, of all the angles around the objectives, but hey, that catnap could easily drag somebody into the abyss on all 3 of these points, something you've got to be extra careful of for your opposition. Both these teams could easily run it. I know they've got it in them with this caliber of players that they have, but if they've got their own pocket strategies, they might want to run something else instead. I would be surprised if they ran something else instead, but the Kiri Cat just seems to be so good here, especially on Lijiang Tower, where that run back time isn't super necessary. You don't really need to worry about speed boosts all that much.
Yeah, it's true. You can really get away with just having the kind of more stagnant back line, minus of course, the Jetpack Cat that's going to be able to taxi people around. And yeah, it's hard to imagine that we're going to end up on a support line other than the Jetpack Cat Kiriko. We do potentially have the Brig Juno that is getting a little bit of playtime here, but like you mentioned, the catnap is just so strong on Lijiang Tower, especially if you're able to hit onto one of the tanks. Dropping a tank out of the fight immediately is much going to be a fight winner, so I'm expecting that we are going to see some targeted attacks onto our tank players.
All right, the question is, which tanks will be locked in here? I know that Demon has been much vaunted through these early weeks of her release, but we'll see if that comes to play here. Mauga still looking as strong as ever, so if Cam were to roll out on that particular pick, would be a surprise to no one. Bakura right now as the tank for Amatori, hovering on that Orisa. Not a guarantee, of course, still a few seconds to switch that up if you need to, but hey, if you're expecting to run into that Mauga, Orisa might be your best bet at countering it.
Ooh, I'm thinking that as well. It is going to be the TP out from both teams, and then over to the Genji mirrors here. So it is going to be these Jetpack Cat Kiriko backlines locked in, and like you mentioned, the matchup between the Orisa and the Mauga is going to be very contested here, where Cam is going to have a lot of sustain in these fights, but Bakura on that Orisa has so many cooldowns to try and negate the value that comes through with that cardiac overdrive.
Cam already have to be very conscious of those cooldowns, and yep, that is a quick kill from, I believe that's a Javelin pin, and Frost finishes up the damage done onto that Mauga. No chance to stick around with all of that CC and consistent throughput of that damage. The Cassidy is still looking as good as ever. Yes, Frost does fall down to Sari's Genji, but it looks as though Sari's not going to be getting out with life intact as Bakura cleans up on the Orisa.
I mean, it's a great start here for Amatori. Bakura already approaching 70% here on that Terra Surge. And right now, Amatori, they can just play their slow game. You don't have to take a face-on fight against Cam on this Malga. You can just do the damage from afar with Bakura and with Frost on this Cassidy. You got a lot of consistent damage that Odin's gonna have to eat as they walk towards this point.
Oh, Stella Luna comes in. She eats a ton of damage for it. Has to back off here. Is able to go ahead with the deflect and force Bakura around the objective now. So it is going to be a disengage from Amatori. They left the objective for a moment here as we are now percentage going up for Odin so far. But we're coming into this next one. As you highlighted, Rain, Bakura is so quick to build this Terra Surge that alongside the Catnap, either one or both of those could easily... Oh, that's not where the Javelin goes, but I'm sure we'll find a win all the same here. That's the Terra Surge. That's the kill onto Agua. Down your Kiri. And yes, Cam gets a kill, but that's all you're gonna get here. Take a seat, return to spawn, and think about what you've just done.
Zimzip with the triple kill there and holds on to this Kitsune Rush as well. And yeah, the beauty of the Jetpack Cat, yeah, the taxi around. So Bakura will get back into this fight quite quickly here. Now, Odin didn't use any ultimates in that fight, so they are coming in with a pretty heavy slate here, but already laser falling so low, they have to use the cooldowns.
Nope, that's the Sky Noon hovering around the point here as Frost goes ahead, finds a kill onto Agua. Yes, Kitsune Rush comes through, but no one's fighting on the point here still. The rest of Amatori wrapping around the backside of the objective here as Cam finds a better Bakura. It's the blade coming out here from Sari. Can you find a kill? A single one onto Frost is going to have to be enough here as Zimzip popping off on this Kiriko. As you mentioned right now, that is going to be a drag down into oblivion as both Illuminous and Zimzip falling to Crow here. They are lethal on this Jetpack Cat.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, kind of had to do it to Zimzip because, yeah, like you said, this Kiriko is kind of popping off here for Amatori. Now, 70% is great for them to have on the board, but Odin did a pretty good job holding on to some crucial ultimates. Oh, no.
Yeah, I believe all we got of that was this ends, which Stella Luna says it sure does, and that's going to be a deflect onto the overclock. Insult, injury, all in one there. If the rush comes through into the cage fight, that is going to be a rapidly erased ultimate there. Cam, not expecting that level of aggression and speed, or even if you do, what can you do in the face of such a good ult as that Kitsune Rush? We're up to 75% for Amatori.
And this is potentially last fight here for Odin to try and get some percentage on the board here on Night Market. Now, up against this Terra Surge again, and Stella Luna has the blade ready to go. Odin are going to be banking on Pro building up to this Catnap.
Amatori holding so close here. The Terra Surge within sight of the spawn room doors, but Odin are able to bend around the objective here, and Sari finds a kill onto Stella Luna. She was not looking around the backside of the objective. Another kill, and Sari comes alive too for the Genji here from Odin. As the rest of the team now on the objective, they might just be able to turn this fight, and they will do just that here. No further ults to spend, doing all this without having any available to you that you could really use at this moment. So it's going to be an escape from Illuminous as Amatori rethink their approach.
Yeah, and their next approach is going to involve 3 ultimates ready to go. The Sky Noon, I mean, they're looking for it already. Odin is going to have to be so careful. Crow maybe going to have to go for a Luke Mito play with that Catnap.
Here comes Frost, and there goes Laser. You're gonna get one, honestly, with the way the Cat and Cassidy blade together. But a blade out from Stella Luna now spies that low health target. Agua and Cam both the next to fall. And yes, you're dealing with a cat in the sky, but can't do a whole lot here on the ground. That's the whole gimmick of the character, right? Not at all terrestrial bound. That's gonna be Amatori cleaning up the last member. As Crow falls, the rest of Amatori gives a Crow a victory themselves. They're going to take our first round on Night Market, but Rain, this was back and forth.
Yeah, I think that we were expecting this, Rags. Like, we know that these two teams are neck and neck with each other. So, yeah, we were not going to see a 100% to 0 on our first subpoint of Lijiang. Taking a little look here. I mean, Amatori, that's fantastic stat line so far. They're doing a really good job resetting after these fights. You can see Illuminous and Stella Luna. I mean, each of them only having 1 death here, knowing when they need to back out, knowing when they can get aggressive and push in once they have everybody from the team gathered up.
I mean, with as close as the percentage was there, you might be surprised to see the disparity in the kill feeds. But no, I think you're absolutely right, Rain. The fight victories there were Amatori's consistently. Odin was able to find some victories through attrition, able to chip away at their opposition here and there. But the commanding victories were all for the team in blue here. And again, it's Bakura leading the charge on this Orisa. Odin fearing they have to mirror this pick here. Cam was getting singled out so frequently at the beginning of those fights. You just need to have an Orisa to deal with an Orisa. Orisa, but sorry, it's not bothered whatsoever. And without an apology to spare, we'll take down 2 with the dashes. Resets coming, liquid all the way. That's going to be Odin finding the first cap here.
I mean, I think the Orisa swap was really what is going to make this a game changer for Odin. They're going to have a lot more consistency in the front line. The thing with the Mauga is that you really want to go for those kind of hard engages with Sori on this Genji, but the mobility of Amatori, it was just making it really hard to find that initial engage. So I like this mirror match here for Odin, and I think that if they can hold on the point, they should have a good chance to tie us up.
Luna finds the better of Agua as Frost clean kill on to Sari, sniping out the opposing Genji. And now Amatori back in the fight, back on the objective here. Luna the only one to fall, but she has left the team in a very good position here to retake this objective at only 30% for Odin. Almost exact same shades of what we got to see on Night Market. These teams are back and forth.
Yeah, now Amatori, they're going to push up here. They do need to wait for some reinforcements to arrive. Make sure they have all 5 members. They have this Deadeye ready to go. They're probably going to be looking for that Sky Noon once again. However, it's a little bit harder to get value on this point compared to the wide open spaces that we had on Night Market.
Can Bakura going pound for pound here in terms of their ultimate charge? These Terra Surges could be the thing to lock down the more vulnerable members of their composition, but the rush out first from Agua. Zimzip a few percentage points behind, but the Sky Noon is not to be denied. Frost finding 2 with that one. Laser getting the better of the opposing Cassidy, but that's all you're going to get here for Odin as Amatori clinch up the fight, and of course that aggression out from Bakura to clean things up at the very end. Crucial to get a clean fight win.
Yeah, fantastic job from the supports of Amatori there. I think I saw 17 HP for Frost, but healed through on the Deadeye and is benefited for it.
And now a defensive rush this close up into the choke point here. It's going to be the Terra Surge. Cam finding the kill, so it looks as though this rush might have gone a bit too quick as Amatori not really around to even utilize it any further. Odin finding kill after kill, spending only that Surge in this fight is huge value here. So at a 67% line, that's going to be Odin taking control once again.
All right, Odin. They only have the blade from Sori to work with, but they're only up against the blade from Stella Luna on the other side of things. Odin have an opportunity to take a quick fight here, try and gain the lead percentage-wise, and then just hunker down for the next fight where they're going to have to deal with that Terra Surge from Bakura.
Made out from Sari and Stella Luna. We've seen both these Genjis be absolutely lethal here on this map so far, and you just can't kill Frost when you're stuck in the health pack. Finally, Sari will manage to do just that. Stella Luna has survived here, but not found any picks of her own, so that's going to be an ignoble finish there for the Genji in blue as Odin holds strong, and off the back of just that blade have won this one out.
All right, yeah, gonna grab the lead here on Control Center as well. Agua building up to the Kitsune Rush. That's what Odin is going to need for this next fight. Zimzip not close to building up one of their own, so they're gonna need this Kitsune Rush from Agua to try and survive this Terra Surge that's coming in from Bakura.
This time, Bakura well ahead of Cam in terms of ult charge. It's going to be the rush down from Agua. Falls immediately, but losing your tank is perhaps an even bigger loss here for the side of Amatori. Odin holding strong, but now we're down to the final 5% on the objective. Amatori need to touch this point, and they need to do it now if you have any hope of actually continuing this fight. And it turns out they just don't. They come around the outside of the objective, but the cat does not move quite as quickly when you've got someone anchored to you by that cable. So we are all tied up on Lijiang Tower. We're going to a third and final on Gardens.
All right, this is going to be it. I mean, once again, looking at this scoreboard, I feel like it's kind of, we're seeing Odin kind of pick up the numbers here, but Amatori have just been keeping up this consistency really well. So I think Odin maybe getting a little bit warmed up there on Control Center. We'll also to see if they're going to stick with this Orisa as well. I think that's making a big difference for them. But as we go over onto Garden, this is where the Jetpack Cat is going to be at her deadliest. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on the skies as both of these teams are looking for some Sky Noons.
I think you're absolutely right here, Rain. Orisa, as good as she is, this is kind of the one point that does not necessarily require her. So we'll see if these fights start going the opponent's way. If these teams want to switch off this composition, Laser finding the better of Illuminous already. Cat being picked out of the sky. That's the main reason these Cassies are even in play in this composition. Otherwise, the Cat goes entirely unheated. And Crow falls as well, but it looks as though that might be the only loss here for Odin, as already the point is being capped. And Stella Luna not able to get away from that one. Took a little bit of wall climb to get out of it. moment, so she might keep her life and a little bit more time for Amatory to come back in, but Odin with first cap.
All right, and this is a really good point to have the defensive kind of stability here, especially where you're running that Cassidy, like you mentioned. Going to be looking to try and take that Jetpack Cat out of the sky, and Jetpack Cat pretty quick, pretty slippery, but still has a hard time pushing into these areas that are controlled by the hit scan.
Yeah, certainly needs a great deal of distractions from the rest of the team to be able to get the most value here. Cam falling dangerously low, pops that Fortify. Javelin comes out. Suzu even committed as well. Determined to keep the tank alive means you're not paying attention to the rest of your squad. Agua and Laser both fall, and now Amatory have cracked this one wide open here. And crucially, without a single ultimate to their name. Odin, however, holding on to all of theirs. That is well played by them, but still, you love to be in the driver's seat here for Amatory.
Yeah, and I mean, I love the way that Amatory approached that. Everybody kind of walked towards White Room, but then they immediately took as many angles as they could. And I think that that's going to be kind of the downfall of these Cassidy compositions with the Orisa. You can only look one or two-ways.
That's the Sky Noon, but Frost, unbothered, unconcerned in his lane, will take down both components, and that is a massive dip here between these two Cassidys. Disbelief in the chat, and I echo those sentiments.
I'm very impressed. You know, I'm expecting that we're going to see Sky Noons from both of these Cassidys, but Frost is on the ground and uses the Deadeye to counter out the Sky Noon. Excellent play here for Amatory, and they have 4 ultimates here to work with. The pathing from Odin, they're rotating towards this White Room. They have the Kitsune Rush to try and push onto the point.
Gonna be the rush here from Agua, imitated here on the opposite side by Zimzip. In addition to that Terra Surge, Bakura goes ahead and lets loose. Not able to find any picks with it so far, but still Luna cleaning up that damage that comes through. Sorry, falling down, no closer to that blade, as we still have that in reserve here for Amatory. Laser, however, this time answering back as the Cassidy duel continues here. These Peacekeepers doing nothing but on the objective and beyond. That's a nice silver bullet, lands on the Stella Luna, and it's gonna be Crow who finishes up that kill, as Amatory kind of reeling here on the objective, still has Bakura alive, but how long will that last when Zimzip falls and Illuminous able to scatter back to the rest of the squad? Nope, and we'll just linger on the point for a slight bit longer, get a health pack, get healed up, but knows that, yeah, this is, oh no, we're playing, this is the top strat. Underneath, that is so close to the actual kill zone on this map, it's crazy.
Very brave from Illuminous, but hey, manages to get out alive, so this is excellent for Amatory to regroup here, try and push in. They have the Blade and the Deadeye plus Catnap coming online here. However, Odin, Laser has this Deadeye of their own, so if Frost goes for that Sky Noon, we could potentially see the combo come out.
The Blade coming out on top. The Suzu committed here, but Laser is a little too stationary for the beginning moments of that ultimate. It's going to be still Luna finding the kill onto the ulting Cassidy there. No Sky Noons, as we've noticed, that sometimes falls into against their favor, I should say. It's going to be a kill coming after kill. Still Luna on this Genji, really lighting things up here. One of the lead killers here on the side of Amatory, and it's not about to stop anytime soon as we find another pickoff onto Crow. No one is out of this Genji's sights. Hit scan be damned. It is all projectiles all day.
She's doing such a great job following up on the damage. And okay, well, Sky Noon is ready to go. Going for a little bit of surprise, as well as Odin's forced to rush towards the point.
I mean, I don't really know what to say to you, Frost. That is certainly not how you expected that to go, and I'm sure that your team is going to have lovely things to say to you about that one after this map is done. But hey, it could not have come at a better time for Odin as the Blade comes out from Sorry, this time determined to find some kills. We've lost a couple in this war of attrition, but it looks as though when the dust settles, Amatory are going to be the ones on the back foot. Staggering out Stella Luna here is actually massive. Odin have the lead here, and Laser coming back on this Bastion. This is going to be so tough for Amatory to get back in.
Right, it comes down to one final fight here on Lijiang Tower to determine the winner of map number 1. Illuminous will get that first touch, but overtime still needs to be triggered by Amatory. They gotta keep somebody on this point.
We've seen this before already in this map alone, but this time the overtime wick has been triggered, but you pay for it with Bakura's life. That's gonna be Crow. Again, this consistent damage, cleanup kills, a Genji in the sky, if you will, taking down that ball coming through from Bakura. Amatory desperately just trying to hold on the objective here, but the Bastion damage is just too consistent, although that being said, you are stuck in a Disruptor shot from the Sojourn. Frost comes back and fights back with a vengeance. Still with a Blade of her own, is not able to find the kills this time around. around. It's the cat from above. Crow comes down, descending like a bird. Feathery cat off your own. That's terrifying to see here. And that's going to be Odin taking this round if they have their say. Bakura can only stagger and stall out on the point. No more to be done for Amatori. That is a desperate, a devastating environmental kill at the very end of that one. I'm losing my words here, Frost. I don't know what was going on there at that moment, but honestly, Rain, that might have cost them the map.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because you knew where they were pathing. You knew the angles that you had to control with that Deadeye, and you could have really at least found one or just bought enough time that the overtime wouldn't have been triggered here. So it's a tough start here for Amatori, but this has been a very close map, so I fully expect that Amatori will be able to bounce back with this, especially where they're going to have the map selection on their side.
Amatori obviously in the lead in that very first round there on Night Market, and a dominant one to be sure here. Like, this was the first round, despite being close in terms of percentage points, was not close in terms of full-on team play, team fights, team fight wins, all those stats that we come to expect here. It was really only as we got to see on Control Center that things started to look a lot closer, but even that was just Odin reaching Amatori's level here, getting finally, oh yeah, this is just a confirmed kill there. Crow wants to be very sure that we take care of that trouble player in Zimzip. That was devastating. Wow. A reflect kill onto the overclock, forcing Laser off the hero entirely. Just a massive fight win here to kick things off, or rather continue the wins for Amatori. But Odin, they got it feeling pretty good about that one, but they also have to know that that was far from a guaranteed map win. They cannot rest on any laurels here.
No, definitely not. And I mean, the swap off of the Malga, I really did win that for Odin. They needed to make the swap over on to match this Orisa that Bakura has been putting out. And I think that if they can kind of continue that, or if they want to play the Malga, they're probably going to have to ban this Orisa. Because you're just having such a hard time kind of staying alive in the fight, getting the cardiac overdrive off, whether it's the spear spin coming through from the Orisa or the javelin that's coming through. It's just been a stellar showing. Honestly, from all of the players so far, I've been very impressed.
Yeah.
Was it the cat?
Someone pressed shift at the wrong moment. Someone jumped, someone did the wrong button at the wrong time there. One of the two of them. Oh, that's
There's so many. We have this from every angle.
Thank you, Prod. That is
that is pretty rough here. But yeah, Amatori, they had a strong start. They're going to be able to bounce back from this. I fully expect we're going to at least get 4 maps in this series, if not 5. So Amatori in control of the map, like I mentioned, so they will be able to select any of the modes. We won't be able to go back over to a control, but a lot of power in their hands right now.
Yeah, of course, again, this is playoffs time. It is a first to 3 here, so it's not as though one map puts you on the edge of defeat just yet. We are looking at our second map of the series here, and if I had to read the tea leaves, if I just had to guess some of the more expected maps we'd be going to here after we get to something like a Lijiang Tower, I don't know. There's just a couple I could think of here, Rain, that I don't even know if I'm allowed to say just yet, because we're kind of waiting to see the confirmation here, but we're going to King's Row. We're going to King's Row next.
We're just like, we got King's Row, yeah, Runasapi. Although I gotta say, the push maps have been diversifying a little bit. I will give it to teams. They have not sent me to Runasapi over and over and over again. Sometimes I get to see a little Colosseo, sometimes a little Esperanza. Never knew Queen Street, but that's okay. Yeah, King's Row. I mean, of course, we're gonna go to King's Row. Yes, it's map number 2. We got Lijiang. We're just ticking all the boxes right now. But yeah, over to a hybrid map, and already the ban coming through. Amatori taking the Genji off the table here. A little surprising to me because I did think Stella was doing very good on that hero.
Yeah, I think, like, reading it back, honestly, I think that both Sari and Stella Luna kind of gave equal performances there. Both had incredible hero moments, and as we highlighted multiple times, we're so clean at finishing up that damage, whether being put out by the tanks or the Cassidy's or even the Jetpack Cats, right? You've got 2 clean assassins there, 2 dive heroes on each team here in both the Genji and the Cat. So yeah, I wonder if this means that they weren't hoping to run this comp at all themselves. They just got their own strategy here. Maybe they're hoping to swap Stella Luna out coming to this map and don't want to deal with Sari, because that, yeah, respecting that Sari is just such a clean threat on this Genji, while they're not planning to run one of their own, that's got to be the way through for me.
Yeah, it's a good point, right? Amatori could be subbing in Asol, so potentially, yeah. And as we head in to King's Row, definitely going to be more options that are viable for the DPS other than that Genji. I'm thinking the Mei, I'm thinking the Freya. Definitely a bit more of a brawl favored historically, but of course, lots of opportunity to play some other variations as well. As all right, well, Jetpack Cat off the board here, and I'm gonna say I am a little surprised. I do think that the Jetpack Cat is very, very strong here, but I fear that she could be stronger on some of the maps that are yet to come.
Yeah, I mean, we saw, again, same thing as with the Genji. Both these teams really piloting the Cat very effectively. I think Crow might have actually even had the edge in this one at the end of the day here. But it looks as though neither of these teams want to run this same strategy here on King's Row. So no Cat Bastion to be had here. That could easily be like the concern. If you see the Genji ban, maybe you think you're going to run the Cat Bastion instead, and you just don't want to deal with that or have to run it yourself. It is one of those comps that's really tough to deal with if you're not running that pocket pick of your own. So just to read the tea leaves a little bit here, this could easily be the counterplay. Again, these two teams have played each other multiple times already. They know what their opposition is capable of. I think this is, what, the fourth time they've met between kickoff and in regular season, and all here already, my goodness, in the playoffs. So yeah, it's not as if they haven't got a good read and recently on their opponents, but these are your bans for our second map in the series. Honestly, it opens the field for either of these heroes down the line. Genji, I'm expecting to see the duels between both of these picks the further we get into the series.
Yeah, I'm thinking that as well. So we'll have to see what's going to happen here on King's Row. See if Odin are going to opt to maybe start on that Mauga. I do think that King's Row might be a little bit more viable to run him, where you have some more kind of pronounced corners to wait behind before you go for the charge in. So you don't necessarily take as much poke damage from that Orisa on the engagement here. But Odin, I think, probably confident that even if they do start on the Mauga, they can make that swap over onto the Orisa to try and match if they feel like that's something they have to do. So now on the side of Amatori, where, you know, you're trying to bounce back, you're trying to tie this series up, this is where they're going to have to kind of dig in and try and come up with something that might surprise Odin.
Recall the Pharah ban on our first map. So this, I mean, it's something that Sari could easily make work, especially here on point A, even through point B, if we're being honest here. And again, it's still the same thing with Lijiang Tower. If you have the Pharah, if you've got the lock, you could easily make her, you know, a competent pick through all three of these points. We are peering through just a tiny little window of opportunity there, having the observers get all the way deep into this map. Love to see it here. But it is going to be for the defensive side, once again, this Orisa composition. No surprise here, Bakura seems most comfortable piloting the horse here, but Essel is going to be in here instead for Stella Luna, kind of as we had predicted here on the Mei. Of course, a hero that is only less storied than Reinhardt on this map particular, but one with even longer staying power, as we've seen. Frost takes a ton of damage, has to back off.
We are going to see Noctara coming in for Odin as well. So Aqua going to be out for this one, and it's going to be that Lucio Kiriko backline for Odin. So they are going to have the benefit of that kind of consistent speed compared to Illuminus over on that Juno.
It's exactly the sort of backline variety I'm hoping to see between defense and offense here. You don't really need the Lucio, so of course that Juno provides you a ton of flexibility, but doesn't do you a whole lot of good when your Sojourn is caught up between a rock and a hard place, and that hard place turns out to be a fortified Orisa on the high ground. That's going to be Cam powering forward, Frost having to respawn. Going to take a second to come back into the fight. Of course, Sojourn pretty quick at doing so, and in fact, pushing back the rest of Odin. It's just the tank left on the objective here alongside that Lucio. Crow eats the Javelin, has to back off, or they're going to be in dinner here. Cam able to find the pick off onto Essel. They're not done fighting this one just yet, as Odin keeping their tank alive at all odds. Cam has really not dropped in health whatsoever, managing those cooldowns, and of course, relying on Noctara. So much healing coming through from them on this Kiriko. The swap already paying dividends as Lasers Emery looking to find any sort of consistent throughput of damage. But Bakura already once again going so fast and fighting so much damage that the Terra Surge and the cleanup kills are so clean. It's Laser and Noctara falling, and Cam finally on the back foot there. Has to back all the way off. We'll see if we can find the pick off kill, or if they're just going to sort of let this one get healed up.
Ooh, yeah, looks like ult charge for Noctara and Crow as Odin going to regroup here. Now they have Terra Surge coming online, Kitsune Rush ready to go. Odin have a lot of tools to try and march their way onto this point.
Rushes come through. The light show is present alongside, of course, lights from the heavens. That's going to be the orbital array let through here by Luminous. Both support ults committed. Crow, the only remaining in the server just yet here. That sound barrier could easily be the thing to stymie this next fight. But holding on to it for at least the later portion of this engagement here, it's going to be the override protocol from the Skybox. Laser still very conscious that you could easily be sniped out, but now not having to worry about Frost. That is where you can free fire on this Emery. So much damage coming through. Zimzif falling down to the cleanup kill. And Laser even finding a pick-off with that pistol later on to Essel. This finally will unlock point A for Odin. They gave a good fight here, did the defense of Amatori, but not enough against this continued skybound pressure.
Skybound pressure is causing some issues here for Amatori. I mean, Frost can put a decent amount of kind of pressure onto Sari on this Pharah, but Ethel hit some pretty impressive right clicks to really be able to kind of do any damage onto Sari and to Laser on this Emre, who has a lot of ability of their own to work with as well. So payload gonna start moving here for Odin. They did hold on to that sound barrier, like you were mentioning. It can be kind of fight changing here. Sorry, looking for the barrage, but doesn't have to pay for it with their life.
Oh, that is a Blizzard cancel cam at the exact right moment. Goes ahead with that javelin spin, and no dice here for Essel. No ice, I should say, in this particular case. That is going to be a stopping of the Blizzard, a halting of that fight-winning ultimate. Another team kill as Odin keep the cart rolling.
All right. I mean, yeah, this is great progress here for Odin. You can see they're going to have 3 on the cart, so they are moving this as fast as they possibly can towards that second checkpoint. Now, Amatori, they have the overclock to work with. They have the Terror Surge to work with here as well, so a lot of pressure being able to be put on to this point. You just need some space to work with.
Overclock finds that first kill. Frost has finally got some breathing room and is not content to stop there. That is both DPS kills coming through for Frost here on the Sojourn, determined to prove themselves here on King's Row. Finally find the kills, finally providing some breathing room here for the defense as Amatori have a chance to set up now at a much closer hold than they had done previously.
And this is exactly what they want. They have Essel on the May. They want to be able to find some walls, but you just lost all that consistent damage from Frost.
I love the immediate swap here on the Sojourn from Laser, spotting out that the Emery just not giving you enough consistency outside of that ultimate and, of course, those cooldowns. So it is going to be the Kitsune Rush from Noctara. They're able to lead the team to victory alongside, of course, a massive Terror Surge from Cam. Not much at all that Amatori can do in the face of that overwhelming onslaught, and that's going to be a healthy time bank. 3 minutes 30 coming in to point C as Odin, I mean, they've got their sights set on a full map cap.
Yeah, they're definitely looking for it. And with that time bank, I mean, you can afford to just play some of these slower fights, build up some ultimates here. Amatori, though, they need to take some space back. They need to build up some ults of their own.
They're determined to hold these defenses nice and close here, and I really like that aggression out from them. We'll see if it pays off long term, but right now it seems to be doing it just the trick as it forces Odin all the way back. Yes, you're not going to fight on that ult, but spending a single one just to earn yourself some space and time here is what you need when your defense is kind of still struggling around here in the water at this point. It's going to be Odin. The kill's coming through. Cam's still able to find the pickoffs. Essel falls, and the rest of Amatori struggling here to maintain consistent pressure on the point. That shield falls down so quickly before the consistent pressure of Laser on this Sojourn. The orbital ray is met by the sound barrier. Crow finally finding the value here, and there's not a whole lot Amatori can do unless, of course, you're Essel. Crow finding a bit too close to the sun here finally pays for it with their life. It's gonna be the hold from Amatori if you can keep Bakura alive. Cam still fighting this one out tooth and nail. The shield falls once again so quick here from the side of Amatori. This Blizzard canceled yet again. Cam cannot be stopped, and Essel unfortunately can do nothing but stare on in horror as another ultimate gone, wasted to nothing. Frost picking up the slack, finds another kill onto Sari. This might be the opening the Amatori need, as we've been fighting for a good minute and change here.
Finally, there's going to be a little bit of a breather here. I am surprised to see Bakura take the shield perk, especially where you are up against this Pharah and the Sojourn here. And Odin, I mean, they are ready to just march forward. No more waiting around at the corner. They are looking to walk this in.
Bakura finds a kill on Dasari. Laser, though, cannot be counted out on this high ground. Finally, though, you've got the tank holding strong on the objective there. Kill after kill coming through for Bakura. Finally falls down to the might of Crow and Laser combined, but with those closer spawns, you might still be able to hold this out if you're Amatori. You're down to a single healer until Illuminous gets back, and Essel and Frost just desperately trying to stay alive here. Again, as you mentioned, Rain, yes, they technically have answers to Sari in that skybox, but it's not a guarantee, especially when you're looking every other direction here to try and take off these flexible, highly mobile supports, and of course Cam launching himself directly into your front line. Finally will fall, though that aggression not paying off this time as Bakura leading the charge here. Another breathing moment for Amatori.
All right, this is really good for them. They hold on to this Terra Surge. The Blizzard online again for Essel, and with Cam swapping over onto the Winston, you are not going to have to worry about it getting eaten up this time. However, there's going to be very, very few Blizzard targets here unless you can wait out some of the cooldowns from Odin that's giving them such high mobility.
You're absolutely right. Even if there's nothing to cancel the ultimate, everyone has a chance to jump out. So we'll see where Essel decides to lay it down. It is, of course, point C, the best chance to actually get the value you want from that Blizzard. And Odin now need to play on Amatori's terms. You've got the chance to get in and out of these fights, but you're also very stationary when you're going ahead with that ultimate. Sure, you can move around a smidge, but with Sari and Noctara are already down here. Crow goes for a late game sound barrier. Desperation moments here from Odin. Yes, you're trying to get back to the point, but this comp is not it here. Amatori had the ult bank and the stone wall comp to make it work. They will hold strong here. It is not a full map completion for Odin.
I think that, yeah, third point really did kind of favor the composition that Amatori was running. We kind of mentioned that the Pharah definitely playable on first and second. Gets a little bit harder when you move into that third point. Not as many kind of angles for the Pharah to kind of hide behind. There's always going to be kind of tracking of where the Pharah's ending up. So good adjustment here from Amatori as looking at some of these numbers here, and it's pretty balanced, I would say, between these two teams. But Amatori holding third point for 3.5 minutes, definitely going to be a bit of a blow, I think, to the confidence of Odin, considering how first and second point went.
Yeah, very clean caps on points A and B for Odin, looking really solid there. Some slight adjustments to their compositions, just giving them a little bit more breathing room. I think the switch to the Sojourn was massive. Yes, on point A, you saw tons of value with the override protocol, of course, from the Emery, but I think Laser made the right call in answering the Sojourn for Sojourn there. Frost was already doing a lot of work locking down the sight lines. You need to be able to answer that, and the Emery just doesn't have that quite consistent damage outside of the ult that the Sojourn brings to it. So very adaptable has this Odin roster been on their offense. We'll see if Amatori can match that on their own.
All right, it is going to be familiar comps for, yeah, both of these teams. And it is going to be the speed from the Lucio on the defense here. Already a incredible javelin, which I think we've come to expect from Bakura.
Yeah, Bakura well and truly practiced on this hero in particular, knows exactly where to throw, how to, and who needs to be caught first out. That's going to be kill after kill here for Amatori. They lose Essel in the bargain, but you think positioning is still too strong for them here, and you can't even have Sari poking your head out without taking so much damage. A railgun to the dome is not out of the cards here if you're not too careful, so that's going to be tons of ground gained. Even though there's a tickle on the objective, it is Crow trying to stall things out, not able to get much done at the end of the day, as there's just too much damage from this front line. Between Bakura and Frost, there's just no stopping them, and the healing out from Zimzif and Illuminous, who again both are more than happy to find their way into the kill feed.
Yeah, the supports are just as deadly as everybody else on the roster here, and all right, the team kill guarantees Amatori a lot of space here on second point. You can see that they have pushed all the way up to that final corner. Well, it's going to be Illuminous on cart duty here, so no ults to be heard of here. Amatori is going to have to be very careful about backing up when needed so you can get those Juno heals.
Frost, again, you've so often here throughout this series, just these first two maps already, eats a javelin and just can barely stay alive here. That 225 health bar very much being felt. Both of these Orisas so able to clean up the kills just like that. Sometimes there's no cleanup necessary. The javelin does the work. Bakura with 2 as Cam falls down once again. No one else to aid that Orisa on the front line. Honestly, it's shades of Odin's attack here for Amatori. There's been no stopping the streets phase thus far, and as Sari is down, those shields has to back up just to get healed up by time alone. It's gonna be this final fight on point B. If Odin has the ult, they can make this work. It's gonna be the massive barrage comes out to be answered by a Suzu at the very last second. Cam answers here with that Terra Surge, but as the Katina rushes laid through here from Zimzip, Nartara lagging behind by a crucial 12% might have been the deciding factor in this fight. No support ults ready for Odin mean they lose this fight, and we're looking at a huge time bank here. Amatori could shut this one out here and now.
I was very impressed with 3.5 minutes. So yeah, 5.5 minutes. Amatori is on a tear right now, and they held on to ultimates as well.
Frost with the overclock on the high ground. Crow is the first to fall. Will anyone else go the way of the dinosaurs here? That the Suzu committed, so we're out of that for a few moments longer here. Laser looking for a cheeky pickoff, not to be had here. Frost finds a nice headshot kill, showing who the better sniper is here on the server right this second. Odin still desperation time. They need to touch. Good to the rush coming out from Noctara as everyone does just that to get the objective here, but they're all falling so low. The damage is just too good. The Blizzard finally, Essel is redeemed, and there is nothing else you can do in the face of such overwhelming ult pressure and massive consistent damage. Amatori will take a map in this series and even things out. Rain, it's gonna be a long one here tonight.
I think you're absolutely right, Rice. I mean, look, we always expect teams to be pretty prepared coming into King's Row, but I gotta say, Amatori, they came in with a game plan, and that game plan was make sure Bakura has all the resources that he needs to get forward. Excellent May walls coming through from Essel. Excellent support coming through from Zimzip and Illuminus. And yeah, just a fantastic showing on King's Row. And yeah, you really cannot count Amatori out.
No, I'm glad you called it out too, because yes, of course, the flashy moments or that those blizzards were unfortunately getting caught up in those spear spins, but those Maywalls throughout the attack and defense here out from Essel, Amatori was able to capitalize on those 9 times out of 10. I mean, how many javelins did we see where we saw either Laser or Sari or Crow launched into one of those alongside Narisa? I mean, there's really no tank that May does not pair well with here, especially on a map like King's Row, where these narrow streets are just so difficult to navigate if most of it is covered up by a massive ice wall here. So Odin gave us such an impressive offense here. Honestly, I was a little worried if Amatori could even get back into this one, but they proved there was no need to be concerned. Their own offense, honestly, even more impressive, and really just showing that even though they lost that first map, they were not taking it too badly, not allowing it to go to their heads. Very much that's the one I'm thinking of here. That wall, perfect place to staple Laser to.
It's absolutely brutal. And Amatori, I mean, the follow-up has been so fantastic. Zimzip had some really amazing Suzus as well. I mean, when Odin came in for the recontest on second point, they had that barrage ready to go. It was a juicy barrage, but an excellently timed Suzu from Zimzip. Feels like Amatori, everybody is locked in right now, but Odin also very locked in. So yeah, we were at least gonna get a map number 4, but I think a map number 5 is in our cards.
Well, with this tied up scoreline, folks, there's no telling how long this one could go. We're going to take a quick break here between maps 2 and 3. Do not go anywhere. Get a quick drink, hydrate. I know I'm going to. We'll see you in a few seconds for map 3. Welcome back, folks. We're right here. The action continues. It is 1-1, all tied up here in the lower finals between Amatori and Odin here for our A-League matchups. Rain, these teams have been fighting tooth and nail, and I have a really hard time picking a favorite to win here. They're both looking so solid. Each has their strengths, but have each proven to be just as good at their opponents', strong points.
Yeah, I mean, look, Lijiang Tower, pretty close, right? We go to map number 3, point number 3 on Lijiang. We needed the tiebreaker there. King's Row was looking pretty dire for Amatori on their defense, but they bounced back. Incredible run on the attack and tying this series up on their map pick. It's exactly what they needed to do to find their way back into this series, but they're going to want to try and keep that momentum up because, of course, Odin going to be able to maybe pull that card out themselves as they are going to be in control of map number 3.
They decide where we go, and it turns out that is Runasapi here for our push map here this series. This is map 3, of course. We are not done with the series by any stretch of the imagination. Still a first to 3 here. So this is not the decider here, folks, as much as it is the case for the regular season here in BPL. Nope. Still tons more to go. At minimum 2 more maps. Runasapi, we talked about earlier, Rain, is kind of the de facto push map that we have settled on here. Esperanza was that for a while, and I think Runasapi has come to be a favorite for a lot of teams. It provides a lot more flexibility, I think, than most of the push maps previously.
Yeah, I think that as well. I mean, you have some really nice long sight lines to work with, but there's enough corners that you can kind of work with a bit more of a brawl comp if you really wanted to. Mauga definitely playable here. Also very playable here is going to be the Jetpack Cat Bastion, or even the Jetpack Cat plus Cassidy, depending on what your preference is. And of course, we did have a Jetpack Cat ban come out once already here, so it is not going to be Odin that can ban out the Jetpack Cat. So if Amatori wants to run the cat, they definitely could do it here.
The Xion ban first from Odin. I mean, both these teams have been taking huge swings here. I know you and I have talked in the past about how DPS bans are a pretty risky gamble here. Obviously, knowing that your opponent is as well practiced in these heroes as you are, and again, they know each other so well, do both of these teams here. So if you're anticipating a Xion pick, that could easily deal a massive blow, but it does mean that you're vulnerable here to a Jetpack Cat ban. All right, it is good, clean, honest Overwatch for both these backlines.
All right, I'm a little surprised to see it, but I am pleasantly surprised. So this will be interesting for Runasapi because I do feel like Jetpack Cat has been a staple on this map for a long time now. So we'll have to see what these teams are going to pivot towards instead. If we are going to see the Lucio come out for Odin once again, maybe the Lucio Kiriko backline for them. Amatori was opting for the Kiriko Juno on King's Row, so definitely a potential to run both of those heroes here. And with that Xion ban coming out, I do have to wonder if maybe we are going to pivot back on over to the Genji like we saw in Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, I feel like both these teams prefer not to run the cat, so only needed to on Lijiang Tower, and this time just playing Gentlefolks Agreement that we don't want to deal with that, at least until the end of the series when things are already getting huge and messy. So, yeah, those are your bans for this map here, the third map of the series on Runasapi. Xion, honestly, there's very few maps where she does not look good right now in the hands of someone who knows exactly how to pilot her, but I think Runasapi is kind of one of the maps I most associate with this hero. You have so many of these back angles, so many of these small corridors and rooms weaving between the objective and around, the main push path of the bot here, that Xion can happily just disappear, where she doesn't worry about her, slightly. If she uses both mobility cooldowns to get in, she can just disappear behind a wall, not too worried about that. So yeah, easily a very concerning pick here. So don't have to worry about it now that you've gotten that off the board for Odin. And it's going to be, I mean, honestly, if we see some more Cassidy Genji, that's an easy way to go, but you're not going to be running the Jetpack Cat for either of these teams, so you don't necessarily need to run that. You might just be more Sojourn here for both these squads.
Yeah, it's a good point, right? We did see the Cassidy coming out kind of in response to that Jetpack Cat, but I think especially where Runasapi has these kind of longer sight lines, having that Sojourn might be a little bit more beneficial for these teams to get that consistent damage in. So it does seem like they would agree with us here. So I think it will come down to kind of these tanks that get selected. It is going to be Easel still in for Amatori, so I am still expecting that we will get to see that Mei. Cam,
covering potentially over on the Zarya here could be a nice selection against the Orisa, where you're able to kind of burn through the javelin spin here. But you got to play really carefully here, because you're not going to have as much brawl potential as that Orisa would. So you're going to have to be very careful about the bubble cooldowns.
Agua back in as well for Naktara on the side of Odin. So back to the original support line from the start of the series. Odin seemed to feel this composition. Honestly, this feels like, you know, apart from the Junker Queen instead of the Zarya here, some of the most commonly and early used comps here in the days of Overwatch 2 from Odin so far. Of course, that Kiri Lucio backline accompanied by that Sojourn and that Genji and Cam doing a very strong job leading the front line here. But still, once you get out of those bubbles, the Orisa and everyone else can do a ton of work at bursting you down. So Cam got to play these very carefully, play for his life here in all senses of the word. Bakura falls low, but able to get healed up. Suzu and everything else committed just to keep this tank alive. Of course, the horse continues to ride. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if later down in the series we see an Orisa ban here. Bakura's just been that good, that much of an anchor for the team of Amatori, able to orbit around the central force that is this immovable object. Odin trying to find a bit of an ingress here to continue on this fight. We haven't seen anyone fall just yet, right? All of these teams are fighting, both teams rather, fighting tooth and nail. All members here giving it their all, firing all cylinders as we have the first ultimate committed. Illuminous builds that sound barrier and Amatori power forward, but no one falls on Odin just yet. Sorry, just able to get out with life intact, at least for a few moments longer here as the rush comes out from Agua. Now in answer comes one from Zimzip. That is going to be Amatori surging forward on their opposition, but later find that first kill on Defrost despite all these ults spent here. That is 3 so far and counting from Amatori. The sound barrier comes out late from Crow, but this one might just be the one to win the day. A grab as well. We're spending everything. I mean, is this are we back in GOATS times here, Rain? We're just spending every single ultimate here in this fight, but no, it's gonna be Odin winning the day. When the dust settles and the lights clear, it is a slight lead for Amatori, about to be eclipsed by Odin.
It's kind of incredible, honestly, that in the first fight we've cycled through all of the ults except for a couple of DPS ultimates here, as Amatori are going to have Bakura swap off of Batarissa. So over onto the Ramadra here. Excellent headshot from Agua is going to ensure that Odin are going to gain the lead and start pushing towards that checkpoint. However, with Bakura over on this Ramadra, it's going to be even harder for Odin to stay in these fights with the brawl.
Oh, that is a good, well-timed Suzu there, but not able to keep Frost alive for long enough as the blade comes out from Sari, finding kill after kill here. Cam and Crow picking off the remnants. That's Odin surging forward, crucially holding on to those 2 DPS ultimates pays dividends as they will cap the first point.
All right, this is massive here. Odin are going to pick up the forward spawns, but they already have everybody alive in this fight as Amatori are going to push back in. They have this overclock from Frost to work with, but you can see that Odin's positioned up on the high ground. They're not looking to give any space away for Frost to use this ultimate.
Honestly, it's going to be even harder now for Bakura to actually make some inroads here. I feel like the Orisa actually gave you a chance at answering back, but of course that beam pierces through everything that Orisa wants to throw against it. Zarya, a clean answer to this composition, so Bakura doing everything they can to continue holding solid for the team of Amatori, finally finding a kill as well, so it looks as though my concerns not needed here as Amatori surge forward, finding a few more kills on the cleanup. Yes, that is a huge early lead for Odin, but this is a big fight win here with only the overclock spent.
And we've seen what can happen when just a small change like swapping a tank comes into play. It worked great for Odin on Lijiang's tower. Amatori now going to try to make it work in their favor.
Well, that is a rush from Zimzip, answered by Aqua, not alive to even utilize his own. Oh, that is another committed here. Illuminous with a sound barrier. The fight was already in their hands, but Amatori determined to just win it that little bit harder. Zimzip does fall. Of course, you cannot count out Sorry for the kills any of these engagements, but yeah, you just wanted that extra assurance to win the fight, knowing as well that you didn't really have to answer it on the opposing side, but that is both your support ults here, only the Annihilation ready for Amatori.
Yeah, I mean, the Annihilation is going to have to do some pretty heavy lifting in this fight. Odin are walking in with a grab ready to go, and without the beat, they should be able to cleave through Amatori fairly easily.
Bakura looking directly at Cam, knows precisely what the task at hand is. That the grab committed doesn't really lock anybody, well, at least nobody living up here. Luminous might have been briefly caught that before being turned to dust particles. The Annihilation rolling, but with arms raised, it's all Bakura can do to stay alive, and even that is just for a few moments longer as Cam and laser down the tank from Amatori. Odin able to answer back and still crucially hold on to that lead.
Yeah, they hold on to the lead and they deny the cap as well. So Amatori don't have forward spawns right now. And you can see the aggression coming through from Crow and Cam. Really want to find a stagger kill here. Amatori, they're forced to use the blade.
Essel with the blade finds one, finds further damage, and eventually falls down to the blade of Sari in answer. Odin battling back in this fight. We are down 3v3 on the objective. Can Agua and Crow stay alive? Yep, not only that, they can find the kills to boot. Zip and Illuminous falling down as Amatori scrambling now. Composition in shambles at this point.
Yeah, with Bakura moving over onto the Winston here, once again, kind of resetting your ult economy here. I do think that this Winston composition is going to be a nice answer to what Odin's running. Amatori just didn't have time in that last fight to really stage for a clean dive. So now that they're going to be in control of the bot here, they have an opportunity to really go for engages onto Laser, onto Sari.
That is an early kill here onto Cam and Essel and Zimzip. Powering forward here, nice deflect, clean style points here for the Genji of Amatori. All that said though, despite that fight win, you still had to worry about Sari just nudging that bot a little bit further out of reach. So yes, you've won that fight, but as we see on these push maps, no matter how flexible they've become in this modern day of Overwatch 2, or Overwatch let's say, there's still this game of attrition. You need to win so many fights in a row when you're down this big of a deficit.
And it's so hard when Odin still have the forward spawn, so they can once again take a fight at this middle point, denying any free push for Amatori.
The rush comes out, and Amatori head for the hills. Those who at least are still alive left to do so. Frost answers back. Cam and Agua might have bitten off more than they can chew as kills come through, but not nearly enough for Odin to make this one a clean fight win. Sorry, not at all bothered by the missing teammates. Still determined to get his. Finally does so, but answers for it with Illuminous. A quick 2K from the Lucio to wrap things up. This is what Amatori needed, right? That's two big fights in a row, and they still have some more ultimates to boot.
Yeah, it looks like they are going to be able to pick up the forward spawn as well. So now it's just a matter of trying to stay in this fight. Bakura doesn't manage to get the Primal Rage off, though. That's devastating here for Amatori. And yeah, they're going to have to just back all the way up. They need Bakura to get that forward spawn. They need to try and take a fight at the middle of Runasapi, the same thing that Odin has been doing to them over and over again. However, this time Odin are going to have the beat to work with. His Blade from Sari coming online very soon as well.
Odin couldn't have found a better first pick in that fight, stopping any momentum, any progress here. And the beat laid through from Crow. They want to continue pushing this directly into Amatori's faces. The beat and answer from Illuminous only lands onto 3 targets. Essel and Bakura all playing on their own. That's the trouble with this dive composition, right? You're not going to get everybody every time here with that massive boon of overhealth. So the deflect comes out from Sari, determined to stay alive here in the face of a primaling, and now back to normal Winston. And finally will do so as Cam has the primal now in answer. And this bot is pushing for Odin. Amatori, it's all gone wrong. They've tried to make their moves. They've tried to ring around the rosy, but it turns out Odin knows exactly where that bread is buttered here. They're going to turn things all the way around and find kill after kill as Crow powers forward. The pickoff onto Frost, and Sari is there to clean up the kill onto Essel. And it's looking pretty dire here as we head down to the 90-minute mark for Amatori.
Yeah, Amatori, I mean, they have the Blade from Essel to work with. Now, granted, there is no beat on the other side to try and cancel that out. However, Agua is building up to this Kitsune Rush very quickly, and this is going to be a pretty good straight way to use that Kitsune Rush. All the damage coming through from Sari and Laser are going to be amplified.
Essel goes first with the Blade, able to find some pickoffs. That would be a huge boon for the team, but no, it's Sari there in answer. No Blade necessary for this Genji to come alive. Another kill onto Illuminous. You've lost a couple here for Odin, but it looks as though that's not going to be enough for Amatori to turn the tide in their favor. Odin still holding strong here on the point. Everyone is a bit low on the objective. Cam and Sari both need to back off and get healed up. It is just Agua with the burst healing, and of course, Crow's very slow radial pulse that. But we're down to 30 seconds and counting for Amatori, and this bot just keeps pushing into their spawn.
Have a fantastic ult economy to keep moving this bot forward. Amatory have Essel over on the Reaper now, just trying to deal with Cam.
Early kill on the Sari, pulls the blade and returns the spawn as Bakura squishes him flat. That's going to be a huge opening here for Amatory, and they need all the help they can get right now. They've spent one ult and would love to hold on to the rest of these to fight this never-ending war to get the bot right back to where they need it. It's going to be the Primal Rage here committed from Bakura as we're about to head into overtime. The bot has just reached the midpoint of the map. We are ending where we started here if Odin have their say. But as the kills come through on the back end of this Primal Rage, Amatory have the numbers in their advantage, but Odin, they know they've got the ult bank, as you highlighted here, Rain. They know all they need is time.
Yeah, and they have so much space to work with here, so they're going to wait for Sori to respawn. It's going to be 5 players alive here for Odin on this next re-engage. However, Amatory, with the benefit of those overtime spawns from Odin, everybody's ready to go. It's a 10v10.
Amatory committing both support ults immediately, but Illuminus again with this beat only lands onto Essel and himself here. That is not going to be nearly enough to sustain you, and the longer this fight goes on, and yeah, in the face of that overclock and everything else to boot, 4 ults somehow is more than 2, and Odin make that count. It is a brutal map here for Amatory. Moments of brilliance, so close to greatness, but it is Odin winning out the day here. They will go up in this series and put themselves at match point within sight of those grand finals.
So close here for Odin. A win on their map pick. This is the pattern that we're expecting to see here from these top tier teams. Amatory, I like the adjustments that they made. They tried to change the tank around, tried to move Essel around. I like the swap off of the Mei. Unfortunately for them, Odin already came out with a very strong composition, moving Cam over onto that Winston, playing a little bit of counter watch, very much benefiting them as well. But yeah, fantastic showing here from Odin on Runasapi, and that is going to be so tough now for Amatory to hit back and have to win not just the next map to stay in the series, but try and win the one after that to propel them on to the grand finals.
I mean, for every answer that Amatory tried to provide to Odin's composition, it felt like Odin were just one step ahead there, able to bounce back unbothered, just completely able to, give the proper motion for Amatory, allowing them to make their changes, swapping over to that Ramatra, swapping over to the Winston, and still finding the time to do so themselves. The Winston mirror, it's hard to say who is more favored there. I think Bakura got the better of it just because, of course, you're on it for a bit longer, but Cam, no slouch at all, especially in those final couple fights, when you were fully mirroring that half of the composition. By the very end, as we got to see, it's full mirrored comps there, just shades of Jotes, but instead of the Queen, it's just the Winston or the Ramatra or the Zarya, whichever Odin feels like they want to pilot. Yeah, looking really solid all the way through here. Even though there were plenty of fight wins for Amatory, it still felt like this was Odin's map all of the way through. It was just a matter of how long it was going to take to get there.
It's all about the timing of the fight wins, right? Amatory was winning fights when their back were kind of up against the spawn doors, but they were having such a hard time trying to win the fights towards the center of the map. Odin able to just kind of deny Amatory from pushing forward at all once they got towards that center point. So it's a great job here from Odin. Amatory, I mean, looking at the map options that they have now, I'm looking at Flashpoint, I'm looking at Escort, and these are not their strongest map types here. I mean, I'm looking at Flashpoint, Suravasha. They've played 5 times and they have only won it a single time. But hey, maybe 6 times the charm here. And then we are going to go to Suravasha.
Yeah, they're running out of options, Rain, is the tough part here, right? Like, you've gone through your better map types already, maybe even hoping to close out this series quickly, but you have to know, against the team you've played so many times and been so evenly matched, so frequently gone the distance. I mean, this is just... You're right, you should say it. I don't know what else to tell you. The only one they've got a positive win rate on is Atlas, and even that is just by a margin of 1. So, yeah, Suravasa is the one we see most commonly here for all these teams at all levels, and it feels like once again we're playing into Odin's hands. These bans have to be impactful.
All right, Zarya ban, good start here from Amatori. I mean, even if Cam doesn't want to play the Zarya, this is going to protect that Orisa. You kind of mentioned it on Runasapi that we're expecting at some point Odin has got to be thinking about an Orisa ban here. Bakura has been absolutely stellar on the tank. Good showing on the Winston as well, but very much the strong tank here. So with Amatori going for that tank ban, it's going to be a protect for that Orisa.
All right, and the Cassidy ban in answer from Odin. So again, both these teams have seemed reticent to play the cat unless it becomes absolutely necessary. And just like on Lijiang Tower, I fear Suravasa might be one of those times when you have to break glass in case of emergency. We could be seeing some more cat here, and sans the Cassidy, I don't want to speak into existence here, Rain, but this is the time and place to run a cat bastion if you're so inclined to do so. I hope that we get to see a bit more honest Overwatch than that, to put my finger on the scales here just a little bit more, but I think it's a good answer to, I mean, you don't have to worry about the Zarya here, but anything that Bakura wouldn't be able to handle here tank-wise, a bastion could easily rip through. And I honestly favor an Orisa into that sort of composition, that helicopter-based comp. Orisa is one of your best tank answers to it. So I think even if you are going to play that, which there's no guarantee, of course, here, even as we have our first looks at what the teams want to hover in spawn, there's still tons of room for Bakura to work here defensively.
Yeah, and okay, we're gonna see Stella Luna come back in as well, and she's gonna be potentially in on the Xion. So we saw that Xion ban come through on Runasapi. It was Essel that was actually in for that, but having Stella Luna come back in, I think Suravasa, very similarly to Runasapi, excellent map for this Xion, where you have so many of these kind of side flanks that the Xion can go on, survive on an angle, and just create pressure, even if you aren't necessarily finding the opening picks here. So Odin are going to be running Cam on this Winston. I feel like this is a hero that we don't really get to see a whole lot just in general right now, but then especially on these Flashpoint maps where you're more kind of favored towards some of these kind of brawl styles. So we'll have to see how Odin is going to use this mobility to their advantage against this more stationary Orisa comp.
No cheese, just cats here for both of these rosters. No one in particular, apart from, you know, the usual suspects of your tank and slower DPS lines able to be shuttled back and forth around the objective. But nope, the only ones consistently staying skybound will be those two supports here. As we're laying things down on the objective, market has been unlocked and capped immediately here by Amatori. Odin not really able to set foot on the objective for too long. You need to find kills first, and it turns out they'll do just that. So despite this first take going the way of Amatori, it is the wraparound here. These dives coming through from Cam and Crow together. Who needs Tracer when you got a jetpack cat? Cam happy to dive alongside the support here in this case. 21%, not a ton, but not nothing here on our first map of Suravasa.
All right, Amatori they're going to swap up the Orisa pretty much right away, and I mean they kind of have to because of the mobility that Odin offers here. So Bakura over onto the Diva here, going to be able to put a bit of pressure onto Cam and going to be able to eat up some of the heals that are coming through from Agua and Crow.
I need to see some work here from Stella Luna on this back line. Those executions could easily be something to lay down these lower health targets, has to be said here. Apart from the Genji and the Winston, everyone is a little bit below average on the side of Odin. So they're a bit more vulnerable. You can find your openings here and tons of damage. Winston not going to do a whole lot in the face of Xion. Still tons of room to get away, whether that's on the Joyride or just with that dash and over health coming through. Crow finds the better of Zimzip, but gets taken down by that Xion of Stella Luna. So it's still anyone's match here right now, but with the mech going down, Bakura is left alone and destroyed on the objective. That's going to be market going Odin's way. With as fast as these points tick up, there's no chance to touch again.
No, and Odin is going to be sitting on a very healthy ult economy where they haven't made any swaps here. Amatori are going to move Frost over onto the Tracer here, so they're trying to move towards a dive comp of their own. Laser on the Sojourn is going to be a pretty diveable target here once those slides are kind of forced out here. So it's going to be on Stella Luna to try and force some of those cooldowns out from that Sojourn, and then for Frost and Bakura to follow up.
Oh, Stella needs a ton of damage, has to back off here, but the rush committed first from Agua, building up to that crucial ultimate. Turns out to be the win condition for at least a portion of this fight, but Frost and McCoy are able to pincer maneuver to take down two already, but it is 3v3 on the objective here. So Primal Raging Winston comes alive, taking down another, diving into the skybox, but sorry, we'll claim that kill onto Illuminus there. Cam gets the consolation prize of taking out Stella Luna. Amatori have held onto their ultimates for the most part, but that's first cap going the way of Odin, and again, they've only spent what they needed, still have two of their own.
Yeah, being in control of Palace here is going to be very beneficial for Laser with this overclock. You can get yourself set up on the high ground here. Amatory, they're going to use that Kitsune Rush to walk onto the point. They need to secure the limb off of this, though, because Odin's going to be able to take their turn quickly.
Well, that's a catnap laid through here. Who is Crow God, dragging everyone back into the fight, dragging that diva away, but of course very mobile as Bakura is. Not too bothered by that at the end of the day, able to dive back in as necessary. Everyone's falling low here. Not a ton of very consistent healing when the cat's away. Still gonna find the pick onto Crow, so it's gonna be even longer for Odin to actually get some consistent throughput here. It's just Agua left, and now no more chances here to escape with life intact. It's going to be the flip here, finally at about 70%. Make that 68 as Amatory regain control. They had to spend in this fight here, but they still hold on to a few. And Odin, yeah, this is their first fight at a loss.
Yeah, right. They've been doing such a great job in these fights of being in control, taking down Zimzip. Massive here. That Kirkle is so much of that consistent healing that Amatory needs to keep this diva in the mech.
Spree comes through, the bubble is able to lock up a lot of that damage, forcing Stella Luna to play a lot more carefully than perhaps she'd like to there. Would love to go in and absolutely go haywire on the backline, but can't really get the distance coming through, especially as Sari is there to answer back, who, as we've seen, is just so clean on this Genji. I wonder if we'll see a swap to mirror that later on down the line here, but again, with this much cap percentage on Palace, there might not be that much later to gain here. Odin would love to lock up a second point here and now and put us on map and series point. And Amatory, it's going to be tough to even touch. I don't even know if they're going to be able to.
Time just triggered here, but you have to push into this overclock that's coming through from Laser set up on the high ground. Amatory are going to be scrambling to stay on this point.
That Joyride, anything but joyful there for Stella Luna. Has to back all the way away and let the motorcycle go. Be bygones. My goodness, that Zimzip falling down into the drink. And despite the heroics, despite the efforts of trying to get back onto the point, Palace is just going to go the way of Odin here. Amatory not really able to find their footing at all. And they spent in that fight. They were determined to stay alive and keep things rolling, but just not nearly enough. Odin, they are facing down a chance to close things out here and now.
Amatory, they need to win this next point if they just want to be able to stay alive in this map and this series here. Finding the limb onto Sari kind of late in the fight here is really good for them, but Odin is already kind of set up around Garden here, and Odin is going to have a bit of a closer spawn for this point as well. So Amatory are going to need to find another limb if they want to get an edge and cap this first.
Sorry with this blade, I'm always watching this Genji. Could easily turn things around for Odin, but hey, who needs to turn things around? You take down that Tracer first. Frost didn't even know what was coming at him. That is going to be kill after kill here. Attempted for Sari. With the cleanup going to be consistent enough. Finding out Stella Luna is the icing on the cake here. No one's capped just yet. Amatory got very, very close to it, but no dice here as Odin take control of their third point here. It is do or die time for Amatory.
All right, well, the good news for Amatory is that they do have a Kitsune Rush to try and walk their way onto this point. Agua not going to be able to match that. You even have this Spree to maybe combo with if you're feeling it. Bakura is over on the Winston now as well, so you're going to be able to go for a much harder dive with this Winston compared to that Diva where you have to have a little bit more mobility to kind of get in and out of fights.
Zimzip with a rush edge over Agua could be the thing, but you've lost Frost already at the start of this fight. You cannot keep losing people on these engages. There's no time to play at a player deficit here for Amatory. On Flashpoint, they go so quickly here. Each of these points over in what feels like heartbeats, and Odin are well past 50 already, 60 and counting. Amatory, they're facing down final fight here.
And they're looking to walk into a bunch of ultimates from Odin as well. I mean, both the support ults, the primal. There are so many options here for Odin to try and toss Amatory off the side or just deny a touch altogether. Amatory need to invest in this, but they gotta be ready for the next match or the next fight as well.
Luminous can't die here, but while you're having that fight duel in the sky, you are losing bodies. We are down 2 on either side of this fight. The Spree is huge, finds 2 kills here, and the catnap on the opposing cat. It turns out you can fight and win the day here. Illuminous comes alive, and it is not the end of the road for Amatory just yet here. Heroics for the Xion and the Jetpack Cat. They are not done. Odin has spent massively in this fight. That same ult bank you talked about, Rain, being their guiding light, turns out to be what might just put the nail in the coffin for their chances on Gardens.
Yeah, I mean, Odin have the overclock here from Laser. Amatori need to make sure that they don't lose anybody to this because they're not going to have time for another fight.
Turns out one might be all that you need here because it's all they've got. Laser finds a pick-off kill and a later confirm onto Illuminous. Yes, you do pay for it with your life, but you'll take that any day of the week. A sacrifice for the rest of the squad. And Amatori, they had that fight win. They had such a moment there at the very end of Gardens, but it just was not to be as Odin will take the map and take the series. They have won out the day. The fourth time these teams met, and it is Odin to rule this matchup. They are going to move on to the grand finals there in 2 days' time, whereas Amatori are going to have to be content with a bronze medal finish.
Place here for Amatori and some revenge here from Odin as this was the rematch of that upper semifinals. It was Amatori that sent Odin into this lower bracket. They stayed alive, they fought through it, and they managed to find their way into the grand finals where is going to be Sirens waiting for them there, but a very well-deserved victory here from Odin.
Without doubt, both these teams, I mean, this series could have easily gone either way with as strong an opening as Amatori had. I was a little surprised to see them fall down so, aggressively in the face of Odin there as we looked into that first push on King's Row, then battling back, and then it turned out to be Runasapi where Odin was really laying down the law. Felt like they truly came alive there by that third map in the series. Not that they weren't playing with their with all their might leading up to that point, but we really got to see the true Odin by Runasapi, and here on Suravasa, they only got stronger as we went in this series, whereas Amatori just felt like they were trying their best to play catch up at this point. And yeah, this does mean that throughout this season, these teams are now 2-2 against each other. That's a nice bit of symmetry here. It's 2 wins for each of them, but unfortunately for Amatori, this is the one that counts the most.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I mean, Odin is going to have to try and keep up this momentum that they've been building through this lower bracket, because going up against Siren Song, we talked about it at the beginning of this show. They've been an absolutely incredible kind of playoff team here. A bit of a rough kind of play in the regular season, but to come into the playoffs off of those play-ins and stay in the upper bracket the entire time, I mean, yeah, Siren Song is definitely going to be a tough matchup here, but if Odin brings the gameplay that they had here tonight, I think that they have a chance to win it all.
Honestly, with what these 3 teams have shown us, whether all season or especially here in the playoffs, any one of them could be the ones to take it all here. Odin wins the day here, and I think this is an excellent source of momentum for them, putting them into the grand finals. I'm delighted to see what happens between those 2 teams, because yeah, Siren's looking so strong here. They're a team that's really come alive here in the postseason and has not stopped winning all the way through. Everyone else has known some losses here, but they have not yet known the taste of defeat. But of course, there's a couple players here we can think of, one in particular who has shown us as leading the pack here for Odin. Let's have a look at our MVP for the evening. It's Crow. Yes, it is the Jetpack Cat. Look, even though the cat was banned out in 2 of the maps, each of these teams thought they did not want to see full cat all night long here. Only half the maps contained one, but with that being said, even without piloting the Jetpack Cat to excellence, it is Crow here, your main support player. The Lucio getting so much value, especially on Runasapi. Not a single beat, missing a single target there, whereas on the opposition side, you were lucky to get 3 targets with that beat. Krog's so consistent here for this team all the way through. Even with the flex support swapping in and out, a reliable stalwart here for the side of Odin, and well-deserved MVP.
Big congratulations to Crow. It's really fun to get to see a Jetpack Cat that is able to kind of do it all here, whether it's getting heals in or getting an incredible amount of eliminations, honestly. But yeah, what a treat to get to watch here. Now, I believe, Regs, that we are going to be able to have a quick interview with Amatori as a bit of an exit here. So I think that we're going to throw it to a quick... Oh no, we are joined. Hello.
Oh.
Welcome.
Hello.
So we have with us Illuminous and Stella Luna from Amatori. So thank you so much for joining us.
We're happy.
Hi.
We're not happy to be here, but
we're happy to be here
We're
after
here,
we've lost.
Valid. That's valid.
Yes, well, yeah, welcome to you both. That is a hard-fought series. I have to know, starting off on Lijiang Tower, how good were you feeling coming into King's Row? I mean, Lijiang was a bit of a heartbreaker on Gardens, but you really battled back on King's Row. How was the morale like coming into map 3?
I mean, map 1 was, we got scammed. Map 2 was a stomp, so like we knew map 3 we could probably just like, take it, but it was a closer kind of lobby. So
Yeah, we were owed a victory on map 1. Our Cass, while ulting, just glitches off our cat. So total
we
sham.
were wondering. We
have to replay the entire series just because I don't think that's representative of us. I think if you play that 100 times, we win 99. So we should just play the whole thing again.
We'll put it forward.
Yes,
for you guys.
yes.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about how your season went, because of course, I mean, it's hard to kind of end on a loss here, but really can't understate that you guys had a really fantastic season. You're finishing 3rd in A-League. So tell me a little bit about kind of your journey through BPL this season.
I just wanted to play cat and learn it because that guy's broken, and I think I succeeded in my goal.
Heck yeah. Love to hear that.
Can't disagree.
Yeah, no, definitely cannot disagree. The cat was good. Amazing.
Yeah,
go ahead.
no,
Sally.
go ahead. So, no, I didn't have anything to say.
Fair enough. How did you find, so I'm gonna again kind of look back here at the playoffs. So Odin, of course, came into the playoffs undefeated in the regular season. You guys had some pretty close matches against them, though. That was something that Rags and I were talking about as we kind of like headed into the series, that every single match that you guys have played, you went the distance here. So would you consider kind of like a rival for this season for you guys?
I mean, they're definitely one of the teams to play against.
Yeah, we played them a whole lot. I think there's some sort of, I mean, we played full map 3 and then map 5 the first 3 times. So like that's kind of a rivalry. So sort of.
Love it. Yeah.
Well, to close out the interview here, I want to give both of you, a chance to sort of shout out anybody from your team, from the fellow teams in the league, anything you want to say in, sort of commemoration of your 3rd place finish here for the season.
Okay, I'm going to say shout out to Face It for scheduling that tournament last weekend. So we delayed this whole thing a whole week. I think a shout out to them for sure. Shout out to Para. I don't know how you say the name. That's the one. Great team. Drafted the best team in the league. We just lost because that's unfortunate. Shout out to all of our team. We super great team. Everyone on this team is amazing, and you should pick all of them up for everything because they're all great players.
Cool. Any final words for you, Illuminous, before we let you go?
Not really. Good season. We'll be back for the next probably, even if we don't lose or win or play. We'll see. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, thank you both so much for joining us again. Sorry about the loss today, but congrats on that 3rd place finish and on a well-fought season all the way through. Folks, these are your players from Amatori. Give it up for them. Of course, we're going to assume applause happening all around the place. Yes, I'm clapping very quietly so it doesn't get picked up on the mic, but that's how it is. That's Amatori's season in the books here, Rain.
It has been a really fun one for them. I think it's a fun one from everybody watching as well. Not just between these two teams, but I think we've had some really fantastic matches all season long here. And I think that the last match of the season is not going to be any different. So I very much am looking forward to that match of Siren Song versus Odin. We'll say tentatively scheduled for Sunday. So make sure that you tune in for that. The conclusion of BPL A-League is upon us, Rags.
Yes, as we've foreshadowed, folks, that is the appointed hour and place, but the most reliable way to know when and where it's going to be occurring. Well, we do know the where, but the when, of course, stay tuned to the announcements here on the server and, of course, on the Twitch chat as well. But that's going to do it for all of us here on the broadcast tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for such a fantastic series between these two teams. We got to give it up for both of them. I got to give it up for Rain, of course. Fantastic, as always, to cast alongside you and the rest of Prod. We had so many members of Prod tonight. That's how we got so many fantastic angles of all of these perhaps more dire moments there. I'm thinking that Deadeye in particular. So thanks, everybody. And of course, stay tuned. Sunday is the big finale for A-League.